Rapport toujours! Welcome to another episode of ATS Fully Engaged Battlefield Walkarounds. I'm Evan, and today I will be taking you through the fiery landscape of French Algeria, also known as Djebel Fighters 1954 to 1962. This is one of those ATS modules where you just never quite know what the actual name is, but you know, it says here French Algeria, and that's an easier title to remember, so we're going to go with that. So, what are we looking at here? Historically, we are looking at... Okay, this is going to be a noisy video. There's lots of dogs and cars going on. There's the dog. Okay. Yeah, so we're looking at the Algerian counterinsurgency, 1954 to 1962, against the French in the post-colonial period. As one writer said, this would be France's Vietnam, except that Vietnam was also France's Vietnam. So that's the situation we are looking at. Let's take a quick look at the components. We got this thingy here. We got 3 counter sheets. Read them and weep. We got French personnel. We got your grenade launcher guys down there if they'll come into focus. Yeah, although they look like rifle grenades, but I think they're supposed to be more like, I don't know, whatever the French equivalent of the M79 is, or maybe the actual M79. And then we've got also some Algerian personnel. The insurgents, as it were. There you can see the sharpshooters, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and the suspect markers. All good things for insurgents to have. You can also see the rate of fire 3 machine guns there, which, I don't know. I guess they're supposed to be more modern, so they have better rates of fire. I like the MIVO distinction, not to, you know, pimp MIVO, but it seems to be that it's based on tripods versus non-tripods, which is better than the World War II CATS. This machine gun is, the MG42 is badass because it's German and has a high rate of fire and people are scared of it, so that's why it has a high rate of fire. That's not a good reason. Anyways, so yeah, I'm not sure why they have high rates of fire here, but that's okay. We got Helos, lots of Helos. You actually use your Helos in this module, so unlike other ATS modules include helicopter rules. And then you don't use the Helos, and there are some actual air support planes, including a big old bomber, which does get used, and supplies, which you can drop with your Helos. Now that, I don't actually remember if it gets used. I don't think so, but there's some fun stuff. Some vehicles, tanks, FVs, got those chaffies, which are at the top, I guess. So those are the 3 counter sheets, or half counter sheets, however you want to term it. There's 3 geo boards somewhere. Oh, here they are. Well, that dog just really is excited about French Algeria. You get desert with lots of rough mountainous terrain, no roads. You get paths, you get ravines, you got, you know, what you expect, rocks and desert and sand and all sorts of nastiness. This is either, I think, 12 by 18. I didn't measure, but that's what they look like to me. So, yeah, you're not too big of a space requirement, so that's good if you don't have a lot of space. And if you like big scenarios, then maybe you should go get a different module. We got the Battlefield Walkaround, the actual Battlefield Walkaround. It's 8 pages on 4 sheets. So it's quite the new versions, the 2016 version is quite pretty. We've got 12 scenarios, which actually for this type of module is quite a few. 6 cards. So we'll talk about the scenarios in a little bit. And then back here are the AFE cards. I just never know how to say that because it's one sheet, but each one's technically its own AFE card, but you know, whatever. So those are the components. I don't think we missed anything. There is no vassal cry. We've made so many jokes to Scott Eagles about this in the hopes that we could guilt him into it or like make fun of him into doing it, but it just hasn't happened yet. Maybe he'll watch this video and change his mind. Although, in his defense, he doesn't have the actual files for the maps and the counters. I think he aren't that big of a problem with the maps. So, and how Critical Hit decides to give him the different map files or not is a complete mystery. It might depend on what Ray ate for breakfast, or there might be some specific method to the madness. I do not know the answer to that question. At any rate, there's no VATS right now, which is a little bit of a problem because there, as you saw with the suspect markers, there's a good amount of hidden stuff, lots of hidden movement. Maybe not completely necessarily, but suspect markers. So playing solo is going to be a little bit more difficult. This is probably one you want to play opposed. And if you don't have, a fine ATS playing companion near you, then, VATS would be the way to go. So someday we will hope for it. So let's look at the interesting stuff. I'll just kind of keep showing off the counters while we're talking about interesting stuff. So the Algerians are kind of Vietnam-esque in that they've got stealth, they've got terrain bonuses for, woods and going up and down precipitous terrain, but they can only fire groups if they've got a leader in every hex. Otherwise, they're limited to same hex fire groups, which I don't know. I don't know enough about the ALN, the Libération Nationale, whatever it is, to say if that's correct or not. It feels like it isn't the case of the Viet Cong or the Pavan in Way, but here maybe it's accurate. And what else? The suspects make them, which are right here. Actually, you don't get a lot of infantry counters because it's like 3 whole rows of suspect counters. But those are very, very useful. Make guys hard to spot as if we're night. You get fog of war, cover bonuses. Makes it harder to melee. They can also teleport away, which I know some people, ASL players, complain about. And, it's designed for effect, buddy. That's just what it is. Now, I haven't played this module, so I can't say maybe it is terrible, but, it is what it is. It's not obviously meant to be there actually teleporting, but they can, instead of getting shot at, when they get shot at, they can choose to, man, these cars are on fire tonight. And the dog's on fire at the same time. They can choose to move away. And they can also infiltrate multiple hexes, which is pretty nifty. Speaking of the sharpshooters, it feels like there's a little bit of a rule missing here. That they have good bonuses against leaders, but then they can't choose to shoot the leader. So if the leader's alone, then that's nice, but that doesn't happen very often. So it feels like a rule's missing there, like in Mevo? Does the Mevo have? No, I guess not. But it feels like there should be a rule that they're allowed to choose their target, which would also make sense. But they're there. Let's go back to the Grenadiers. I actually have an article in the works for a long time about grenades, rifle grenades. Not rifle grenades, even though that's what these look like. About underslung grenade launchers or underbarrel grenade launchers. Both in Mevo and also in Cats, because they come out here, as well as in Way and maybe somewhere else. But yeah, they all work slightly differently, so it's kind of strange. These ones, I kind of see what they're going for. So you can't fire group them, and they only have 2 GF, so they're not that great. But they do get air bursts with no HPT roll, and they do get they ignore obscuring terrain, which, I get it. The idea is you're firing over stuff, but that's not really how obscuring terrain works. The idea is you just can't see what you're shooting at, so you're more likely to miss. So, I like that idea in theory. I like that they have something to them that makes them different and better than regular small arms, but I'm not sure that was the best way to handle it. But, if I play this, I hope to play this someday. I will see how that goes. So what other cool stuff do we have going on? There's some weird ASL carryovers, like SMC, single-man counters, instead of, whatever they're supposed to be in ATS. And no penalties for other units using weapons, which is just a default rule in ATS. But that's okay. You also have walking wounded and badly wounded and medics to heal them up. And these rules are actually kind of interesting. There's no medic on here. You just break it off from a squad. But we'll just look at the counters because it's fun. The idea is that, no man left behind, all that kind of thing. So you gotta take care of your wounded. But this does matter because you can change the VP bar that you're aiming for depending on if you evacuate your wounded or not. It does have an actual effect on the game and the victory conditions and what you're trying to accomplish and how you accomplish it, which is nice. They're those really nice paratroopers. 959, bam. Almost as good as U.S. Marines in World War II. Almost. It's impossible to be that good, though. And then there are the Helos, yeah. Now, this is actually a module, probably the only module, where Helos make appear. I was looking at the scenarios. I didn't count them, but there was a lot of scenarios, maybe 6 or so, that use Helos. And they do fight, as well as they do a lot of transporting. Bringing leaders on, taking wounded off, as discussed. But yeah, they do stuff. They actually show up and are used, and aren't just there for window dressing, which is really nice. I approve. As for scenarios, so most of them are, medium length, 7 to 9 turns, like this one. 8 turns. Support, good and bad. Feels like there's a comma missing in that title, but okay. So most are in 7 to 9 range. I think there's one that's 6, one that's 10. They're mostly medium-sized. I mean, we could get into debate about what medium-sized actually means, but I would say this is medium-sized. This side's got 14 squads, some vehicles, a bunch of random guys, some weapons. The other side's a little bit smaller. So it's not small, but it's not, big, medium. Medium, small, medium, I don't know. And there's like 2 ones that are actually small, or it's just a couple squads on a side. Let me see if I can find one. Yeah, there we go. Well, and car alarms too. Just cannot get any better than this. So and then there's one, I think 1 or 2 big ones, but they're not huge. There's no campaign game, and they're all small. Like they're all small in the size of the board. There's only 3 boards. None of the maps. None of the scenarios use all 3 boards. A bunch of them use just part of a board, like this one. See that there, the red part is the part you can actually play on. That's normal, but these aren't like full maps. It's not a very big area. And then there's some that use the junction between 2, which is, not the greatest, but that's the point of having geoboards, is you can do things like that, but not the greatest for space. So there's that trade-off. I mean, this one's tiny map area. So and there's a couple like this one that use the entire 2 maps. But yeah, there's none that use 3 in any capacity. So that's that. I mean, if you want to get your Helos on, if you want to have lots of hidden movement, if you want to be a counterinsurgent or an insurgent, French Algeria is definitely a fun module to look at. It's definitely one I've wanted to play for a long time. Someday maybe I'll play it, especially if it comes out on VATS. Hint, hint, wink, wink. All right. And leave us a comment, check out the blog, check out the podcast, and play some ATS. Ciao, ciao.